Welcome back to the Explainer, guys. We are jumping right into the high-stakes fallout from our last session. No fluff today, we're getting straight to it. Look, if you remember the absolute chaos at the Shrine of Savras, you already know we left off on one of the most brutal cliffhangers we've seen yet. So, let's just dive right in. Because, seriously, what actually happens when a hero falls? And I don't just mean rolling a couple of sketchy death saves and hoping the dice are nice to you. I'm talking about the cold, hard, mechanical reality of a character dying right there on the battlefield. Session 9 forced the party to answer that grim question head-on, setting up these massive life-or-death stakes that tested everything, their tactical ingenuity, and honestly, their deepest personal convictions.
Part 1. The Fall of Wiffer. To really grasp the gravity of what goes down, we've got to pick up exactly where that cliffhanger left us.
Check out this timeline, because it brilliantly shows just how violently and how incredibly fast things went south for Wiffer. He's already at half health, totally surrounded by orcs, just trying to escape the burning shrine. At 0 seconds, boom, an opportunity attack catches him off guard. By the 6-second mark, downed and unconscious. And then, instead of stepping over him to chase the rest of the party, an orc literally takes a moment to laugh, and at 12 seconds just drives a javelin right into his side. By 18 seconds, Wiffer Brightblade, our ASMR fighter, is dead. 18 seconds. That is all it took.
Moving into Part 2, the Outer Planes. Because we aren't just staying on the mortal battlefield here.
The narrative actually yanks us away from the shrine and plunges us into this metaphysical mystery in the afterlife. And what's really wild here is the bizarre cosmic bureaucracy going on over Wiffer's soul. He finds himself in the Outer Planes, literally looking down at his own corpse, right? And standing over him are a devil and an angel, just bickering. The devil is totally confused about why he was even sent to escort Wiffer down the river Styx. He complains to the angel saying, hey, he's clearly one of yours. He smells of radiant energy. But the angel is equally grossed out, looking at Wiffer and straight up calling him a synthetic abomination. And then the angel makes this absolutely chilling observation. They say the celestial blood that trickles from this body practically screams in pain as it touches the air. There is nothing willing about that. A true Aasimar is usually a descendant of a willing celestial bloodline. But Wiffer, the angel sees right past the wings and the radiance. To a celestial eye, Wiffer's existence is completely unnatural. It's this forced, synthetic creation that totally defies the natural order of the planes. So, the crucial point we get to is this huge, eerie mystery. As this celestial blood is literally calling out in pain, it becomes glaringly obvious to these entities that a full half of Wiffer's soul is simply missing, just gone. A blank, empty void where a whole soul should be. I want you to just let that detail hang heavily on your mind for a second. We don't have the answer to this yet, but it creates this immense intrigue about what on earth Wiffer's parents were actually doing in that hidden R&D lab.
All right, Part 3, Boris chooses Tamora. Let's pivot back to the mortal realm, because Wiffer's body is still lying in the dirt, and his friends are getting desperate.
The emotional and mechanical climax of this whole session falls squarely on our cleric, Boris Rightwell. To bring Wiffer back, Boris has to cast Revivify, but as we know, D&D doesn't just hand out free respawns. There are 2 steep mechanical hurdles here. First, Boris needs to officially be a cleric with a chosen divine domain, and we know he's been super conflicted about this, bouncing between the magic of Talos, Savras, you name it. Second, the spell strictly requires a high-value gem to be consumed as fuel, and right now, Boris doesn't have either of these things locked down.
But man, this is where Boris finally steps up. He makes the ultimate decision to devote his life to a definitive path. He officially commits to the goddess Tamora, claiming the luck domain. You can really feel the emotional weight here. After a lifetime of just barely surviving on the high seas by the skin of his teeth, Boris fully embraces his sailor's luck. And this clarity finally grants him the divine connection he needs to attempt the spell.
Okay, so that solves requirement number 1, but that leads us right into this massive mechanical problem. Where do you find a high-value gem in the middle of a burning, blood-soaked shrine surrounded by enemies? Obviously, they don't have time to go on a shopping trip, and Wiffer's timer for resurrection is literally ticking down by the second.
And this is where the party just uses incredibly clever mechanics to pull off the rescue. Remember that magical item Wiffer got from Nomengard recently? The Brightblade Battle Belt? It uses charges fueled by valuable crystals. Boris realizes this, rips one of the crystals right out of the belt, and uses it as the material component. The magic consumes the crystal, and Boris successfully yanks Wiffer's fractured soul back from the outer planes and right back into his mortal body. Absolutely epic.
Which brings us to Part 4, securing the Golden Bell. With Wiffer actually breathing again, the whole vibe shifts.
We go from this desperate ticking clock nightmare to a triumphant, highly tactical cleanup of the battlefield. The party is reunited, they are mad, and it's time to take out the trash. And guess how many orcs and ogres are left standing in the courtyard who didn't immediately run away from our heroes? 0. Exactly 0. The party just wipes the floor with the remaining forces of Talos and secures the perimeter.
And honestly, this cleanup operation turns into an absolute masterclass of hilarious D&D heist logic. While trying to put out the fire, they realize the giant bell in the belfry is solid gold, left behind by the old Connieberry folks. Obviously they want it, but it's gigantic. So, step 1, realize it's gold. Step 2, they ingeniously cast Minimize to shrink this massive bell down to a pocket-sized little thing. Step 3, they literally just stuff the shrunken gold bell into Vitrovia's pocket dimension bag. It is just pure, chaotic adventurer energy.
Before they pack up and leave the shrine for good, there are a couple of narrative ties to wrap up. Boris, after having that vision of Savras, promises to rid the shrine of any lingering harm and vows to see it restored. Meanwhile, Sister Langolin, our nun who holds the recorded truths of the realm in her mind, she decides to stay behind. Vitrovia's pocket dimension actually recognized her as a purely peaceful presence earlier, and now she's staying to rehab the sacred site.
Section 5. Return to Phandalin. The fires are left behind, and the heroes finally start making their way back to civilization.
On the road, they run into a familiar face. Thistle Barthen, the adventurous kid from town, is just wandering down the road toward Cornyberry looking for Bajak. This quick little encounter is a great reminder of the party's ongoing role as protectors here. They immediately pivot, escorting her safely back to the Phandalin hub to make sure no roaming monsters can get to her.
Once they're back in Phandalin, the party grabs a seriously well-deserved long rest at the Stonehill Inn. But to get the gravity of the final moments of this session, we really need to talk about what a pocket dimension actually is. Think of it as a small, extra-dimensional space that requires concentrated, highly costly magical energy just to stay intact. Vitrovia has been treating her magical bag like a Swiss Army knife, hiding people, shrinking giant gold bells, stabilizing chaotic energy, you name it.
And that leads to a super foreboding nighttime message that completely shatters the peace of their rest. While Vitrovia is sleeping, her contact Mipsy shows up with a stark warning, quote, "The circle is frustrated with your carelessness. The nightly rituals to maintain the dimension aren't exactly free." Remember, Vitrovia is on a highly secret mission for her marginalized druid circle. That bag holds their literal hopes for a restored future. And her reckless use of it as this chaotic taxi service and loot hauler, it is causing severe, potentially catastrophic stress on the magic holding it together.
Which leaves us with this incredibly provocative thought to chew on. With a whole orc army gathering and the Veil Between Worlds thinning out, how much longer can Vitrovia's sanctuary actually hold before it tears completely open? Guys, if that pocket dimension collapses, the fallout won't just be losing a cool golden bell. It could completely destroy her entire hidden mission. Keep that in the back of your mind as we gear up for the next session. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this recap, and I'll see you next time.